Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the horror Mizamani G. It's time to review the latest film for The Mummy. Yes, I finally got it. Yes, this is Lee Cronin's The Mummy.
Y'all ready for this? Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the horror Mizamani.
Now, Lee Cronin's The Mummy is a 2026 American supernatural horror film that was written and directed by Lee Cronin. Yes, the man that gave us Evil Dead Rise. Now, the film stars Jack Renoir, Layla Costa, May Kalamawi, I think I pronounced that right, and Natalie Grace. Now, in this film, a young daughter of a journalist disappears into the desert without a trace. 8 years later, the broken family is shocked when she is returned to them, and what should have been a joyful reunion turns into a living nightmare. And I would say a very disgusting living nightmare. Now, horror fans, when it comes to the Universal monsters, perhaps one of the most underrated monsters in the group, I would say outside of the creature of the Black Lagoon, is the mummy. Despite the fact there have been plenty of films based upon the mummy's character, he just isn't as popular as Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, or the Wolfman. Now, the mummy did become popular due to the success of Stephen Sommers' Mummy series, with the fourth film coming out in 2028, with stars Brandon Fraser and Rachel Rice returning. Yay! Everyone's happy that's happening because we did love those three films. Even though the third film wasn't as good as the first two films, we did love seeing Rick O'Connell and Evie and his wife and her brother on their nice adventures. It was a swashbuckling adventure with mummies involved. Unfortunately, we all know about the failure of the 2017 film The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise, and what was supposed to be the start of a shared universe called the shared universe of the Universal monster called the Dark Universe, but we all know how bad that turned out. So Irish filmmaker Lee Cronin, who wrote and directed Evil Dead Rise, brings us his latest project and entry into the Mummy franchises, which is actually called Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Now, after an intriguing prologue, we're introduced to investigative TV reporter Charlie Cannon and his family, his wife Larissa, who is pregnant with their third child, along with their oldest son Sebastian, and of course their daughter Katie. Now, while living in Cairo, Egypt, Katie is visited by a woman who claims to be her friend Layla's mother, who calls herself the magician. She kidnaps Katie after luring her away with candy, and a desperate Charlie loses them in a sandstorm. Oh. 8 years later, however, while living in Larissa's mother's home in Albuquerque, New Mexico, they're notified by the Egyptian government that Katie has been found. She's alive. Now, despite Katie's horrific condition, Charlie and Larissa decide to bring Katie back home, which they are unknowingly bringing back something that is evil and terrifying living inside of Katie. It's kind of what the film is about. Now, I will say this, horror fans, the best way I can describe Lee's version of his mummy is that it's disgusting and gross, and that's what takes center stage in this film. That's because his version of the mummy is dark, creepy, and very evil, unlike what we've seen other versions of the mummy that we've seen before. Not to say that those mummies were evil or dark, but this takes the cake when it comes to evil and dark for this particular version of the mummy. However, despite some very dark, gross, and disgusting moments that happen in this film, for me, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's okay, but it's not okay. We'll discuss that later. Now, I do like the setup as it's something totally different that we haven't seen before in any other mummy films. Now, I'll say any other mummy films. Because in this film, it's not Imhotep or Karis coming back as a lumbering, foot dragging monster that we've seen in all the mummy films, whether it's Universal Monsters or the Hammer horror films. This version of the mummy is way worse than any of those films. And while I like the fact that Lee is trying something different here, it's the journey that's the problem that I have with this particular film because it does take a while. Some people might say it drags. a little bit too long. Now, first of all, the film does look great, as I like the fact that the family lives in a very isolated but very lovely home, and Lee takes advantage of that setting. By the time that Charlie and Larissa bring Katie back home, that lovely house slowly becomes a nightmare for the family. It also doesn't take long for whatever is inside Katie starts affecting the family, including their 5-year-old child Maud, the youngest child that was born while Katie disappeared. Now I keep saying this because Katie does some very disturbing and disgusting things to herself and the family as the evil inside first starts to grow and grow and grow. As a matter of fact, as the film goes on, the worst stuff that she does to herself and the family. Now, I'm sure most people watching this film will be getting possession exorcist vibes, as if film seems to be playing more to that subgenre of films than a mummy film. That's because as we learn more what is happening to Katie, the more I get the feeling that this should be an exorcist film than a mummy film. No, as a matter of fact, I think this should be the film that David Gordon Green should have came up with when he tried to do his Exorcist Believer film, because I think this would have been a much better version of The Exorcist without having to bring back the legacy characters. There's no need to bring like Ellen Burstyn in that particular film. You even have Linda Blair bring back this film. This would have been perfect as an Exorcist film. Now, as I stated before, it does take some time to get to that particular point in the film, but because of all the gross and disgusting things that happen or what Katie does, the film doesn't drag, despite the 134-minute runtime. Some people might find it still drags, but to me, it didn't drag just because of all the not just the creepy stuff, but the gross stuff that Katie does in this film. Now, the acting is okay as Jack Renora and Lila Costa. They're fine as Charlie and Larissa. Parents who are at first overjoyed that Katie is alive, but then become scared and frightened as the evil inside of Katie continues to grow. Now, I thought Natalie Grace was fine as Katie, as she's so cute and funny. She has some very funny lines at the beginning of the film, and of course, she does some really disgusting things afterwards. There's a great contrast between those two particular versions of Katie. Now, the makeup effects on Katie are decent, along with the other effects that happen in the films. I'm pretty sure it's a combination of practical effects and CGI. It's integrated nice. I've seen better, but I've seen worse. But I thought they did a good job with the practical effects. Now, this does play well in the third act of the film, as we get a very long exposition dump because we finally get to know what happened to Katie. But it kind of plays more into an exorcism, like what we see in the third act of The Exorcist, as opposed to just being the mummy film. And again, that's kind of what this film feels like. It's more as a possession exorcist film than a mummy film. Now, I will say I am not saying that this is a bad film, as this is way much better than Tom Cruise's 2017 film. And while it's better than the third Stephen Sommers film, it's no way better than his first two films. Again, for me, it's a mixed bag. As while I did enjoy some aspects of the film, such as the acting, I thought the two parents were good. I thought the child actors were okay. They weren't annoying. They don't get a chance of being annoying. And the practical effects are pretty good. This film, again, seems it served better as an Exorcist film than a Mummy one. It feels like I was watching an Exorcist film, not a Mummy film. But there's reason why it is a Mummy film because of, what is happening to Katie has to do more with an Egyptian side. But again, it plays more like an Exorcist film, not a Mummy film. So I'm going to give Lee Cronin's The Mummy only 2 out of the Miser's 5 bloody gold coins. Like I said, it's not a bad film. Lee did a pretty good job in what he was trying to accomplish. But again, it feels more like an Exorcist film, not a mummy film. And that's why I give it only 2 out of the Miser's 5 bloody gold coins. And there you have it, my horror fans. That is my video and review of Lee Cronin's The Mummy. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, like, and sure really helped out with that YouTube algorithm. So have you seen Lee Cronin's The Mummy? What do you thought about it? Did you find it sick and disgusting like I did? Leave your comments in the comment section below and tell you what you thought about the film. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscriber button, ring that notification bell. That way, you'll be notified anytime when I put up a new video such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Money G, and always remember, horror rules. And I see you in my next video. You guys stay safe out there.